Starting with Battlefield Vietnam in 2004, the M16 rifle family has been featured in most, if not all, modern-day Battlefield titles released. From the M16A1 fighting its way through the humid and dense foliage of the Vietnamese jungle, to the M16A3 stampeding its way through Battlefield through multiplayer, the M16 has more than earned its status as a legendary rifle throughout the series. The M16 rifle and its variants have popped up 11 times throughout the Battlefield franchise, counting Battlefield 6, and Battlefield 6 is possibly the best version of this thing we've seen so far, due to some attachments that DICE has given us, and we'll get into some of those in this video, but we'll get into the main one in a different video that I will be uploading probably next week. Going into real world use for a very brief moment of time, since the kit we're going to be doing today is based off of a real world build. The M16A4 didn't spend a whole lot of time with the US Army at all. They spent less than 10 years as the standard issue rifle. It was really kind of the case of the M14, albeit less so because the Marine Corps kept the M16A4 in service for almost 20 years. The Army had these from 99 until roughly 05 to 06 when they transferred over to the M4 and the M4A1 carbine. But the Marine Corps, of course, would keep these until around 2015 to 2016, and then they would transfer over to the M27I-AR. The M16 wouldn't have to wait that long into the early War on Terror, however, for its baptism by fire. In April and November of 2004, both the first and second Battle of Fallujah would have the M16 have its baptism by fire. Not only was the Second Battle of Fallujah one of the bloodiest battles the US had fought since the Vietnam War, specifically Hue City in 1968, it saw the M16 have extensive combat use throughout that entire battle, and it led to the M16 being trusted more and more and more by US soldiers. And today, we are going to be making a kit based off of the Second Battle of Fallujah and what you would have seen on a rifle at the time. Coincidentally enough, the Second Battle of Fallujah was also the TA-31 4X magnification ACOG's first main baptism by fire and its first major well-known battle. So, let's go ahead and get right on into this with the first of several technicalities we will have during this video, and that is going to be for our sights. Now, you might be thinking, just put the ACOG on and be done with it. I wish I could, but not every Marine in Fallujah in November and April of 2004 had an ACOG. They wouldn't see standard issue frontline combat for roughly 6 to 8 months after Fallujah had ended. They would find their way onto most, if not all, Marine rifles in the years to come. But in 2003 and 2004, things were still finding their way onto rifles, and they were still finding their way onto the front lines. So you would either see the basic carry handle, you would not see the Mautic rear sight, but you would see the A4 style carry handle, or you would see the ACOG. For the purpose of this build and the appearance of this build, we will be going with the ACOG, but if you want a realistic Fallujah loadout, you're going to want the carry handle or you're going to want the ACOG. You will every so often see like a really weird one-off Triticon like RX-01 or a Mars sight or something along those lines. I don't believe you, well, especially not this specific model of EOTech. You won't really see EOTechs on these things at all. Those are more of an M4 and a Mark 18 Mod 1 / Motto thing. Anyway, let's go ahead and slap the TA-31 4X ACOG on and move on to the next item. For the top accessory, we're going to be running the red laser. The red laser in this game is based off of the PEQ-2, which first saw adoption in 2003 and made its way onto Marine rifles very quickly afterwards. The PEQ-2 had been produced and developed in the 90s, but it only got picked up in 2003 by the Marine Corps, and it really didn't last that long. The PEQ-15 would come out in 2007 to 2008, and that is actually this thing right here. This is the PEQ-15 in game, so we do thankfully have both the PEQ-2 and the PEQ-15, which I think is a very cool detail. Anyway, the PEQ-2 would only serve for roughly 6-ish years, maybe a little bit less than that. These things found their way onto rifles in 03 to 04, and they were mostly phased out by 08 or 09 in favor of the PEQ-15. But for the purpose of today's video, since the kit we're doing is from roughly the 2004 to very early 2005 time period, we're going to be putting the PEQ-2 on there, and that's how the rifle looks so far. Now this is going to be another technicality right here. If you don't want rail covers, because these were decent, like they actually did use rail covers in the GWAT era, like the very early GWAT era. Now, whether or not you want these on, up to you, and it was up to the soldier at the time. So, for the time being, we will be taking these off. And for the red accessory, we will be sticking on the Tac Light Hip. This is based off of a Surefire M951, which was one of the most extensively used flashlights at the time, and it's still even very well known today. And if you saw any Global War on Terror movie, TV show, or video game from the 2000s or the early 2010s, there's a good chance if you saw a flashlight, it was one of these things. I know in American Sniper with Bradley Cooper's Mark 18 Mod O that he has throughout the majority of his time in Iraq, he has the Tac Light Hip on. Well, not the Tac Light Hip, but the Surefire M951 on. And yeah, that's what we're going to be putting on here today, because that is absolutely something you would have seen during this first and second Battle of Fallujah. Going on to the muzzle, we're going to be keeping it simple here as well. We're going to be putting on the A2 style flash hider. Now, this does differ from the A1 style flash hider in that the bottom half of it is closed. That is due to the fact that A1 flash hiders would kick up debris and what have you. Pretty much, if it was under the muzzle when you were firing, it was getting kicked up and it was obscuring your sight and it was obscuring the people next to your sight as well. So they cut off the they didn't cut out the bottom part of it, and it is all good now. This was the exact same flash hider you would see on the M4A1 as well as the Mark 18 series. So we're going to be going to put that on. This is a small technicality here, but we will be getting into this technicality very soon. For the barrel, for this chunk of the build, we will be keeping this with the 20-inch factory barrel. Just the standard barrel on an M16A4. You're not going to really have time to modify your barrel in the field when you're getting shot at fucking every day in and out. So, yeah. For the underbarrel, we will be throwing on the vertical grip if we have the points, which is why we're going to be removing the flashlight and putting no on there right now. For the grip, we will be putting the classical vertical grip on. I don't know why I said classical. The classic vertical grip. This is based off of a CAC forward pistol grip, and this was, if you played any FPS game between like 2003 to 2004 and like 2015, you know what this grip is. This was everywhere in the 2000s and the 2010s. It's one of the most well-known pistol grips of all time. My Airsoft Mark 18 had one of these things when I bought it from Academy, so this was everywhere. And this was also one of the most common pistol grips you'll see during the early GWAT period. Even into the late GWAT period, you'll see these pop up all the time. So we are going to be throwing that on there for this build. And you might notice that the carry handle that we took off in favor of the TA-31 ACOG just now reappeared, bolted onto the bottom rail of the Picatinny rail there at the bottom. That is not a mistake or a glitch. That is actually an extremely cool weapon detail. So during the transfer from iron sights to optical gun sights such as the ACOG, red dot scopes, whatever you may have put on your rifle, the Marine Corps still wanted to keep track of the carry handles and they wanted to have accountability for them. So what soldiers would end up doing is, so they wouldn't lose their carry handles in their backpack, their rucksack, their pockets, wherever they wanted to put their carry handles, they would put them on either one of the side rails or on the very bottom rail, and that way, not only would you have a more stable firing position for, walls, curbs, stuff like that, you would have your carry handle on you at all times, and you wouldn't lose it. And I think this is one of the coolest weapon Easter eggs that Battlefield has ever done, and that gaming has ever done in a whole. Going on to the ammunition. So M855, which is the standard issue, was the standard issue ammo for the M16 at the time, is technically armor piercing. And what do I mean by that? I mean it's armor piercing enough to where it'll hit through soft cover and helmets, but that's really about it. It's not going to be punching through like any actual armored vehicles, which understandable. It's 5.56. It's basically just spicy 22. So you can run penetration should you want to. I do know this makes it easier to shoot through people online as well as shoot through tarps, thin wood, shit like that. This does make it easier, but FMJ is also a very, very, very possible choice. But for today's video, this is what I run all the time. I run tungsten core on practically any weapon that has it. It doesn't cost any more points than FMJ does, and it just gives you benefits. So we are going to go ahead and put that on. Now for ergonomics, we are going to be putting the rail cover back on. This was, again, something you would have seen a lot during Fallujah, and I quite frankly just think it looks really, really nice how it looks. And this is the first build for the second Battle of Fallujah. Beautiful weapon model, beautiful. This is just a really nice weapon model, and this is like it was a DICE. Y'all did some damn good work on this M16A4. I really like how this thing looks. This is probably one of the best ones we've seen in a hot minute in gaming. Now we're going on to a secondary, technically less accurate build, but we'll get into that whenever we do. So for the secondary build, we are going to be throwing off the 20-inch factory and putting the 20-inch H-bar on. Now, yes, this does change the barrel just slightly. Going to be throwing that on, and what that gives us is another 5 points that we can allocate to different things. And what we're going to be also doing is we're going to be tossing the rail covers, so we can have a total of 15 points to spend on the Surefire M951. And there you have it. This is technically speaking not as accurate just because of the barrel change, but at the same time you do gain the ability to put the flashlight on, which would have been absolutely standard issue for the Marine Corps. Like you want to see when you're indoors, especially in a town that wants to like absolutely murder your face. So yeah, absolutely. I think the carry handle is kind of glitching with the new update they have, which is a little unfortunate. Did they actually? They actually fucking modeled that, like the underside of that carry handle. That's actually insane. Okay, that's. I feel like that's a little unnecessary, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but still, your attention to detail is absolutely beautiful. This is how it looks in game. Now, unfortunately, you can't really read what the magwell says or what the. My cat just got the zoomies. You can't really read what the magwell says or what the writing just to the left of the fire selector says, but you can, on the fire selector, you can make out that it says semi-auto and burst. I don't know if the A3 receiver has it to say auto on it, since that would technically be just an A1 lower receiver. But we'll look at that with the A3 video I'm going to be doing this week. Anyway, the M16A4 in Battlefield 6 has a 4-shot kill range out to 35 meters. So right here, you can see the 35 meter mark. Go to this dummy right here. Switch on semi-auto. 5-shot kill. 5-shot kill. 5-shot kill. I don't know if the 5-shot kill has any damage fall off to it. I don't know if this thing turns into a 2-burst kill. Well, technically it's already a 2-burst kill, but I don't know if it turns into a 6-shot kill at like extremely long ranges. But 4-shot kill, 4-shot kill. So I don't know if it ends at 35 meters or if it ends before 35 meters, but that is the cutoff for the M16A4's 4-shot damage range. And I do also want to point out that right now, this is with the heavy extended barrel on. This does have a little more control, so it's just a little bit easier to land those shots if I didn't suck so much ass with aiming. Let's wait for that back one to pop back up real quick. Now, another thing you could do if you wanted to do a Fallujah build that didn't have the iron sights, you could throw that on, then throw the rail covers on, and then you'd be good to go. And this is, again, if you didn't have an ACOG in Fallujah, this is likely something what you're going to have. A foregrip, laser, light, and yeah. Now let's go and take this thing into the range and see how it looks and acts. Now, of course, since we have the carry handle on top for the iron sights, you're not going to have it on the bottom rail, which is a little unfortunate, but again, I mean, that makes sense, quite frankly, because, you're not, using a different sight. I do actually believe, now that I'm looking at this a little bit further, can I get this maybe a little, there it is, maybe a little bit more in the light? Yeah, I do, okay, so that's what I thought. So for some reason, I don't know why games do this, but for A2 style carry handles, in which this isn't technically an A2 style carry handle, it's an A4 detachable one, but it has the same rear aperture sight the A2 has. It uses the 200 plus meter aperture, and I don't know why it does that, because this is not 200 plus meters. Same damage fall off. Almost seems like it's a little bit easier to control in this. Okay, that done exactly half when I missed like 8 bursts on the single target. But, God, it just looks so goddamn good. They did such a good job modeling this A4. This looks so, like, it both does and does not, but, like, it does look so much better than the Battlefield 4 M16A4. It's just gorgeous. It really is. This is probably the best A4 model I've seen in a game recently, other than, like, 6 Days in Fallujah, but, like, that is entirely based on 6 Days in the second Battle of Fallujah. But that is going to go ahead and just about do it for this video, y'all. So if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more loadouts like it, make sure you hit that like button. Maybe drop a comment saying what loadout you want me to cover next, what gun you want me to cover next. I'm open to pretty much any suggestion there are, as long as I can run it on my PC or if it's on console. But with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have an awesome weekend. I will not be streaming the Hella Loose Beta this weekend. I don't believe my PC will be able to run both that and OBS. I'm also not at my current, I'm also not at my normal streaming setup. I don't really have a way of streaming right now. But I will be playing the Hell Let Loose Vietnam beta. I will be trying to capture gameplay with OBS, and I will be trying to give my thoughts after the beta ends and during the beta as well. But that being said, that's going to go ahead and just about do it for this video, y'all. So until next time, guys, I will see you later. Firebrand out. Later, y'all.